quick crossover now to the equities market. I'm sure Temple is ready to give us all the details of the activities that happened yesterday. Temple.
Well, yes, Chimeze, yes, we saw a market that dipped again yesterday. We're losing some, yesterday we lost some 58 basis points from the all-share index, and all the way from the 25,000 psychological position, we dipped to 24,000 and settled lower at 883.70 actually. Look at the equity capitalization. That also declined from our much celebrated 13 trillion naira to 12.98 trillion naira. But don't bother, don't get yourself too worked up. We're going to climb back to 13 trillion and of course 14 trillion much later. Look at the volume of transaction, talking about the level of activity in the market yesterday. Volume was up by some 17%, was positive. We got Access Bank contributing some massive transactions to what we saw in this space yesterday. In terms of the value of transactions, we climbed by some 73.6% yesterday, 73.6%, because again, this is 2.47 billion naira in terms of what we did yesterday compared to what we did on Monday, which was 1.something billion naira. But we got your deals in red because again, yesterday we were positive in this space, up by some 4,000 plus, at some 4,000 plus in terms of deals. But yesterday we did some 3,925 as opposed to 4,000 plus that we had recorded in the preceding trading session. Let's look at the stock, the sectoral performance. In terms of banking stocks, ETI was up yesterday. Wema Bank was also up. We got Zenith Bank up by some 30 basis points. GT Bank continues to rise. It's doing higher, way higher than 24 naira now. So for those that had actually bought at 17 naira, and if you've been losing, if you've been resting for so long, perhaps it's time for you to check if it's that time for you to take some profits. So generally, we saw the banking stocks yesterday up by some 52 basis points, and of course, consumer goods segment of the market was up by some 93 basis points as things were yesterday. We rose basically industrial goods side of the market pulled down the market yesterday. 409 basis points decline in Dangote cement, and that's not something to actually celebrate. We will get an analyst to speak to us about that, how what exactly is happening in that space much later on the program. Let's get back to Chimeze now.
Temple, you're still there, telling us about what happened yesterday.
Yes, I am here. I'm not going to fail you, Chimeze. Let's listen to what we have in the industrial goods space. Yesterday, we saw how Dangote Cement pulls down the market. It lost some 4.09% in terms of the transaction we saw. We understood that there was more of cross-dealing yesterday, and much of those cross-dealing on Dangote Cement were actually on the offer side of the bargain. We know that year-to-date, Dangote had fallen to some 0.14%. Yesterday, that's expanded further to some 0.42% in terms of the year-to-date losses. WAPCO was also down yesterday, and negatively, they both impacted this space, which is the sectoral side of industrial goods in the market. Prestige Assurance saw a decline of 10% yesterday and impacted on the sector, which settled lower at 2.48% eventually. Oil and gas, we got Adover PLC that was up yesterday by some 4.94%. We saw almost 1 million units of shares actually traded in this space yesterday. Cornwell, nothing to celebrate there. A lot of other stocks that you have in the energy space, not so much of celebration in this space. Folks are really waiting and watching to see what happens to the economy as everyone keeps their eyes fixed on the Q2 or H1 numbers for the economy, and of course Q2 numbers, which the NBS should be releasing soon before they take their decision. And of course, low valuations, which they have been checking out lately, has actually given opportunity to a whole lot of investors. They did buy on the low valuations, and last week we know that there was a lot of bullish sentiment in the market due to those bargain huntings. But this week we're seeing more of profit taking in the market. That's the reason why we're seeing some of those companies that had actually gained last week now deepen. And for those like Adover PLC that actually were lower last week and no deal, no activities at all, we're seeing investors coming on board. We have a stockbroker from TRW Securities, and of course a stockbroking firm now joining us. That's Mr. Abdurrashid Momo. Talk to us, Mr. Momo, about why we're seeing this level of decline and cold shoulder in the industrial goods space. Yesterday we saw Boa Cement dipping. The day before yesterday, Boa Cement dipped. And of course, yesterday it was the attention was shifted to Dangote Cement. Why the decline in that space?
Basically, if you are analyzing the market, you have to look at the heartbeat of the market, which is the index. Last week, I did write a report that the market was moving in an upward channel, and basically, I said the market was going to hit at least about 25,500 points. That is within the period of June. Those were the June highs before markets turned down to about 24,000 points. For me, the bull rally is still intact, but that channel cannot be broken now until it hits about 25,000 points. So what you are seeing basically are just corrections. There's no threat to the current bull rally till date. And stocks that can do such damage are the high network stocks like Dangote Cement, like Boa, Nestle, and the rest. If you see from the banking sector, last week we saw the rise of Zenith shares. Zenith now came down. Now you turn off GTB. It's all just about market, just to balance up everything. But what I need to say is that the market is still in a bull trend. The channel has not been broken. It has not been threatened. The market is moving in a staircase formation, going high. Then the correction is more like a landing to rest and see what goes next. But I didn't expect anything much bullish, but it's just going to be sequels of bull rallies.
GT Bank, and of course, which is where we've seen attention lately, and of course, Zenith Bank is also seemingly enjoying that level of sentiment at this point. But we haven't seen the earnings of these key companies. What do you think is delaying their numbers?
Well, we have to. I think that will be the trigger button for the market when these financials come out. But so far, if you look at it, despite all the COVID issues and everything, the market has actually been, the financials of companies coming out, they've actually tried. We didn't expect such positive, because we were expecting that from Q2 we'll begin to see the impact of the COVID, but the company seems to be doing well. So basically, we were waiting for what's going to happen. Those are going to be the key. Zenith, GTB, UBA assets. From there, that will now give us actually a true reflection of the market. If this current rally is actually a true, or we call it dip or a break, either the market is going to go up continuously or we're going to come down. But what you have to know is that the season we are in the market now, if you check out historically, the best seasons in the market actually from November to about June, right? Where there's this thing of selling May and go away. But June is always the peak of the market. Most of the period we have seen is supposed to be more of corrections into the period of November when we start seeing actual bull rallies. But because of this special case of the COVID, people are actually waiting to see what the big boys are going to.
Teams in the market, basically.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Abdulrashid Momo, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us about equities markets today. We appreciate your time. Mr. Abdulrashid Momo is a stockbroker with CRW Stockbrokers. Before we wrap up this segment, let's quickly look at what the NASDOTT has in stock. Was up yesterday, 0.70%. And of course, we got the market capitalization clawing back some gains. We moved all the way from 518 billion naira back up to 522.28 billion naira. Look at what we saw in terms of deals, was up by some 63% yesterday, thanks to Niger Delta Exploration Production Company, which made some key gains yesterday. It opened at 275 naira, and of course closed higher at 295 naira. I think it added some 20 naira to the share price, and we saw some 42 million units or 42,000 units of its shares, added to what we have here. 42,000. If you take that out of the 53,000, you have a few more thousands left there, and of course that went to some other retail deals that we saw in the market. Again, this is one space to watch because again we know that Allianz Nigeria Insurance is one company that is trying to actually get delisted from the NASD OTC. Folks are actually concerned about that because they're offering shareholders 1 naira 50 kobo, but shareholders are saying, no, we want 2 naira 50 kobo. Let's continue to keep tab on this particular development at the NASD OTC. Chimaze.
If I'm a shareholder, of course, I want 2 naira 50 kobo temple.
I know that.
All right, we go on a short break, and when we come back, we do an opening call to London. And of course, back here to the debt and currency market. Just stay with us.